What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Language of Dogs. This is Justin Silver sitting across from Kristen Hartley.
Hey.
And I got the adorable Mushu sitting on my lap, the gremlin alien dog that Kristen has adopted.
That's correct. He is a demon. He is a cross between a demon and Falcor.
He is
from the Never-Ending Story.
He's so cute.
I just aged myself. There we go.
We are here with Joey and Ani behind the booth, everybody, and we are going to catch up from last week because we had the interview with
Second Chance
Rescue. Sorry, there's so many rescues, I lose track of them, and so we're going to catch up on some of your questions. To watch the visual aspect of this show or component or the visual version. That's the word I was looking for. The visual version. Sorry, I have this broken leg and it's cutting circulation off to my brain. The visual.
Can't wait to see what your excuse is in the leg heals. Great.
The amount of stuff I'm getting out of because of this. The visual version of the show, you can go to our YouTube page. It's The Language of Dogs on YouTube. Our social media is at The Language of Dogs. I put the Facebook page back up, which was a nightmare to deal with. So we have it on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Our Patreon is patreon.com/TLOD, where you can ask us anything in dogdom. We will always answer questions from social media, but it's a lot more efficient if you head over to our Patreon. And you know what? You get this podcast. You get this podcast for free. So you know what? You can. It doesn't cost that much.
You can mosey on over to a platform. You know you're already on it.
It keeps us going. So
Justin, what is your? You know what? Before we get into this, what is your preferred platform of choice? So when you're just scrolling, disassociating like the rest of us, which is your preferred platform? My husband loves Twitter. A lot of the writers, people like Twitter.
I forgot to mention our Twitter. We're on that one too.
Okay, good.
I forgot it. I'm an Instagram guy because it's the most versatile. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where you can do the most. You can post links to things. TikToks to me is a little bit it's a little bit one dimensional. Although we do very well on there. But
that's okay, TikTokers. But I'm a TikTok person. Don't let his bougie affect you.
I like posting on Instagram because I'll post, like, for example, I've just posted the trailers of that hyperactivity video, and then I'm like, hey, to watch the full video, go here, and it just makes it easier for people to be like, wait, this is something I'm interested in, and then they click, and then there's the full video, and they can get the solution. You can't do that on many other platforms, so it's the most versatile. Totally right. So it's the one I kind of live on the most. Let's catch up a little bit personally, and then let's dive into some of these listener questions.
Well, first of all, how's your foot doing? Is there an end in sight? What are we doing? We need more videos of you out with the dogs, and we can't do that until the foot is better. So where are we with the foot?
It's the ankle. The ankle is slowly but surely getting better. I've never been more frustrated. Brutus is still away with my canine's keeper, which is kind of cool because all my comedian friends who are on the road right now, all their dogs are there, so they're running around on a half an acre. And if you go on to social media, I post all these cool videos of them just
my canine's keeper.
My canine's keeper. That's my friend Ebony, who's a trainer. And so he's running around over there. I would not keep him in the city with me, moving as slowly as I'm moving, just because, like, even though he walks great off leash, it's like I flipped over that knee scooter twice last week. So I don't want to make a mistake and jeopardize him. And at the same time, like, let him run around and be at camp while I'm away. It's also good for him because it's like, listen, he's in the crate there. Like, they're out running around all day, but then they're crate trained. It's like it just strengthens his autonomy.
Right.
And dogs need to be able to do that. And I think the more people, places, and things in their lives besides the bubble of their owner, the better it is for them. They need to, just like kids have to go to school during the day, and if you're Jewish like me, your kids go to camp over the summer.
Sleepaway
it's
camp.
It's the same thing. Which actually, can I just say this? Mm-hmm. I get these calls all the time from friends who are like, hey, my neighbor's dog is barking nonstop, right? And these calls, like, I can't stand.
So somebody actually rings your phone. This is not a DM.
I get a text. No, I get a text from like a friend of mine, like, "Hey, can I ask you something really quick?" And I'm like, "I know, it's a dog question," and it'll be about someone else's dog in their lives and some behaviors, which immediately I'm like, if the person's not calling me, but like a friend is, I'm like, I could just tell you what the problem is immediately, right? And trainers, we all have this sort of a little bit of this tough love thing where it's almost like personal trainers, nutritionists who are like, you know what? any kind of life coach, like you're not going to get somebody sober. You're not going to get somebody to quit smoking.
That's true.
You're not going to get somebody in shape. People have to want that thing.
That's true.
And she's like, I told my neighbor that I have this dog trainer friend, and she asked me to ask you what to do about this barking nonstop. And I'm like, but she's not calling, you're calling.
Person already sounds aggressive. I'm not gonna
No,
lie.
no, not aggressive at all. It's the way it's my you're hearing my frustration in how I hear it and how I respond back. And immediately I go, well, what's this dog know? And it's like, and you know the answer to this question, right? It's like not close to nothing, or like, maybe like a few words. And the expectation is like, well, what's the should she get an e-collar, or is there a what is it, like a comfort blanket so that the dog stops barking during the day? And what people really want are these sort of quick solutions to fix problems, and those problems are pointing to a lack of education in dogs. I see this all the time, floating in this very complicated human-based world, especially if you're in New York City in apartments and there's elevators and there's not just a backyard where they can run around.
I feel like I'm floating in a human-based world.
Yes.
I mean, so of course a dog does.
Yeah, and they're sort of like, and these dogs don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and people are just like, what's the thing I can do to get them to stop this one thing? And it's like, they don't look at it in a holistic manner, where it's like, if dogs' needs for exercise, affection, Cesar Millan would say this a lot, exercise, affection, discipline, but also autonomy, relationships with other people, relationships with other dogs, a full life, as I was just explaining, with walkers who were in their life, other people, other places. What are you expecting of them? Like, what then you should have gotten a hamster. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times people are like...
I love how we went from dog to hamster. At least you didn't say a fish.
Listen, a cat is a wonderful companion animal for people to have, and a lot simpler to own if you're like, hey, I want an apartment animal that's not going to put too many demands on my life, and they don't require as much, which is true. I mean, and that's not, they're not... There's man's best friend because there's a reason. Like, dogs are created by people.
I would also say that they potentially sometimes don't give as much because they're not as... Cats are more...
autonomous.
Autonomous.
They're naturally autonomous.
Correct.
Yeah, I've had cats, and I think cats give a tremendous amount. One of the wonderful things about having cats is you're like, wait, you can leave this thing alone. Like, you can, like, not that they don't require, you know what I'm saying. Like, there's the cat people who are going to flip out right now. I love cats. I don't
think we have a lot of cat people listening to the language of dogs.
There's animal people, but like, I love cats. I love all animals. I love
cats
except
too.
cockroaches.
I wish I wasn't allergic.
But my point is that, like, dogs require a lot. It's like having half a kid. And when people are like, let me do the bare minimum here, and then they're like, how do I just fix this problem? It's like, well, the stem of the problem is the information they're getting throughout their day, throughout their lives, which comes from who? You.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, if you're not going to provide them with all the things that they need, and often I hear people like, but my last dog was like this, and my last dog was like that. I'm like, so what? If you had one kid who was athletic and another kid who was like a book nerd, you're like, why doesn't this kid just go outside and play like my other one did?
Well, that's like saying my one partner was like this, or my one partner was like that. All animals are exactly like people, and everybody's different. And the interaction's different. The needs are different. It's just different.
Correct. So my answer to those people are like, yeah, we can fix all those problems you have, but the truth is, like, the fix for that comes from a different mindset and an attitude change of that I'm willing to invest in educating my dog, noticing and recognizing what my dog needs and providing those things. And the truth is, once you decide to do that, it kind of is really easy. It doesn't require training 24/7. I always say, like, if you provide for them the necessary, if you meet them halfway and provide them all the things that they need, if you have a very high energy, high active dog, and they, there's so many resources to get them to give them outlets for that, and then you just work on little bits of training at 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there.
Yeah.
The payoff is immense, and it lasts throughout their whole lives. And it also, what I tell people is, like, you're the dog trainer. You have a kid, which makes you, like, you have to become an expert in children.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it's like,
especially with special needs, but yeah.
Yeah, and if you have a dog, you're a dog trainer, and a good dog trainer is going to show you. It's like, here, and I'll shut up with this. When you take driver's ed, the driving instructor sits in the passenger seat. They're not holding the steering wheel for you. So they're showing you how to do something. If you go see a personal trainer, they're not the ones lifting the weights. You're the one lifting the weights. And a good trainer is teaching you how to do these things, so you take ownership of a process here. And the process gets easier and easier. Just like anything you practice, you gain momentum with them. So even though I come at it with like a little bit of tough love, sort of smacking people in the back of the head in the beginning, at the end, it's sort of like it's to empower you and show you like this is a process like you can own and you're going to enjoy. And isn't that why you got these animals in the first place? Or is it just so like they could sit in the house and, or is
Dolls.
it? Yeah. Is it like you got a stuffed animal with a heartbeat? You know what I'm saying? So that's like, and it goes for dogs of all shapes and sizes.
Mushu.
Okay. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
Well, I mean, and one of the things, this brings up a great point, is one of the things we always want to mention is that our observations are always based on our experience.
Yes.
And none of these tips and techniques are a replacement for training. And so if you think that your dog needs
professional,
right, then please try to research a reputable trainer that can help you. These are guides, not gospel.
These are guides, not gospel. That is the truth. This is our experience, strength, and hope. All right. All right, what's up, everybody? I just want to tell you about one of my favorite dog foods. This is Darwin's. Darwin's makes some of my favorite raw, organic dog and cat food, which ships frozen to your door in these convenient peel and serve packages. It's got all the organ meats, vegetables, vitamins, and minerals that dogs and cats need for health, longevity, and well-being. You could feed it raw, or you can cook it like I do, add grains if you want to. And if you head over to darwinspet.com, use the promo code TLOD, click try it for $14.95. They will send you 10 pounds of this for $14.95, and they don't even keep that $14.95. They send it to our charity, Funny for Fido, and we use that money to send Darwin's to shelter dogs. You also get a free package of jerky treats with that promo code, so make sure you use the promo code. At least just get the trial. If you decide to stick with it, you can stick with it. If not, use it as treats. You can cook it up, stuff it into Kong toys, stick those in the freezer. So it's just a lot of bang for your buck, and you're doing good not only for your dog, but for other dogs.
Found a stick on the ground, and now I'm gonna use it. All this power that I found, gonna totally abuse it. I hit so much stuff, do not get into my way, cause I found a stick, and I'm using it today. I got a stick.
Before we answer these listener questions, you want anything with this little guy? Because I know you're in the process of training, and even though he's a little, he's a lot.
It's a lot.
Anything?
It's a lot. I will say that for all of our, listeners, that when you're trying to teach them to sit and to stay, and you're potty training, and you're trying to, give them a vocabulary, because he loves to bark, he loves to sit in the window, and like someone's here, even though they're literally across the street. And so it is a lot, but I'm trying to work on things incrementally. The biggest thing that we just can't seem to gain any ground at all, not even what you always like to say, 10% incremental progress, is we are still
10% improvement,
right,
maybe per week, or
He does not seem to understand going number 2 outside. We've made a lot of progress with number 1, but he still does not seem to understand number 2 outside. And I don't, we grew up in the days where they would shove their noses in it, or pick it up and
someone
put it
asked
outside.
me that the other day,
right,
and I'm
it was
like,
a weird
no.
thing. And then you punish them, and then we've tried picking it up and putting it outside. That's been going on for almost 2 months now, still not working. So I know that I'm supposed to be patient, but while he's trashing everything in the house, it's hard to be patient. It's hard.
No, I get that. But like I said, the process of cycling, and I'll put a video up on cycling, small compartmentalized area, right to out, booking it with going right outside, just repeating that. He's going to get it. The other thing is you're learning while he's learning. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the difficult thing is it's one thing if an expert has him, right? Because it's easier for us because we've done it so many times. But I feel like everybody gets it by the time they're supposed to get it, even though it's a little frustrating in the early goings. But the fact that you're making progress on the one part means you're going to make progress on the other part. So I'm just imploring you to continue to be patient.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And
Housebreaking is
trying.
I
It's
know
hard. It's really hard, especially when they wee pad trained him
in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're undoing that. I have all these people who have puppies, and they're like, they're asking me about the housebreaking, and I know they're in apartments and a lot of times in inner cities, and they're using the pads in conjunction with trying to housebreak them, and I'm like, do not do that. You're just prolonging something, and you're going to clean the messes up now or later, and you're either going to clean up less now than you would later. That's not going to last as long. So that's the deal.
All right. So okay, that's helpful. All right. So let's get into catching up on these questions.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I'm going to aim the camera down a little bit so we can see his face when he lays down. Can I do that, Joe? I don't care if this is happening on air right now.
She's gonna get him. This can all happen on air. She's gonna get him really a little bit of water
let it
because
all
he's
happen.
overheating.
Let it all happen on air. There we go.
All happen. Less
You guys
editing,
can,
more real, more realness.
You guys
Everybody
can
needs more realness. That's why
listen to how we really do.
TikTok over Instagram, and I've said this before. I will say it again. Is that there's something about the TikTok platform where everyone is not. If you've noticed, everybody's like, my kid sucks, or like this dog is driving me crazy, or my job is awful, or like I'm trying to find myself, or I'm kind of falling apart here. Versus Instagram is like everything is beautiful, everything is amazing, I'm living my best life, I'm feeling so inspired. If you're frustrated, just breathe. So I love Instagram for all the pretty pictures and because the platform lets you do more, but there is an honesty on TikTok that we have not seen on any platform before it.
We can agree to disagree, but ultimately, I don't give a shit.
I know. I'm just saying. As a content marketing advertising exec, I am just saying that it's very interesting.
By the way, as she's watering him, I was just cautious to. Ani brought a big bowl of water to not overhydrate him. So that's the point, because we want no pee on this couch right now.
He's not gonna pee.
I know that, but I'm saying, there's also a lot of times when they're trying to
Ice.
cool themselves. This is interesting. When they're trying to cool themselves, they'll cool themselves through their tongues, and if they overhydrate right before you want them to sit still and not pee for a little while, a lot of times using ice cubes is preferable to giving them a big bowl of water. So there's a point just right there. All right, let's get into these.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so this one is from Anna on Patreon. Thank you so much, Anna. All right. Hi, Justin. What is your take on doggy daycare? Is it the right approach for puppies to socialize and learn how to behave appropriately around other dogs?
That's the whole question?
That's the whole question.
So I have very strong opinions on this. So
you do, and I'm very excited for them to hear it.
So Brutus right now is with my friend Ebony, as I said. She's a dog trainer. Her and her family take dogs at their house. They have about a half an acre of land. The dogs are outside for the majority of the day. Then they cycle back in to rest. They are crate trained. They are fed incredibly well. Because she is an award-winning obedience competing trainer.
Okay.
They have the obedience competitions.
Got it.
Right. She's a blue ribbon winner. Because of that, training is such a high priority, and the way the dogs are disciplined even when they're playing is exactly what I would want from my dogs. So my dogs are there. I recommend all my friends to send their dogs there. It's very balanced. It is not overpacked. She takes just the amount of dogs that they can handle. They're in a family environment. It's a wonderful option. I also have my assistant, Aviva, who has a studio apartment in Manhattan, which is not much bigger than the studio that we are in right now, right? Which is,
Good Lord.
Right. She'll take 3 dogs sometimes, and when those dogs are home, usually they are sleeping because the majority of their exercise is done outside, on leash. She's taking them to the park. She, again, has a very, very educated eye and handle on dog behavior. So if they go to the park and something's inappropriate, she knows exactly what she's doing, when to leave. She understands that if unneutered males come in and the other males are going to get a little bit rowdy because of that, that's a time to leave. She when they are in the apartment, they are usually sleeping because the majority of their exercise and discipline is happening outside. There are people all over the country who do things like this. There are also training facilities where, even though it's a bigger company, not dissimilar to Ebony's at my Canine's Keeper, because they have large outdoor spaces. They do not overcrowd. They have the hired help that they have is not someone that they're just hiring out of nowhere who has a strong base in dog behavior. So you're like, this is a safe, fun, healthy environment for my animal. When I was going to open one of these, I first was like, let me go check out a bunch of the doggy daycares in New York City. And out of all of those, I was like, man, I found very few that I didn't think were not great. Dogs indoors most of the time. And because there are these big indoor playrooms, there's a lot of peeing going on inside. And listen, I'm sure some of these are good, but some of these are not so good. And I would say the majority are not so good. But dogs peeing inside a lot, so their housebreaking is being undone. A lot of times they are staffed by people who are just, not as educated as I would want them to be with my dog. And so, if dogs are playing the way dogs are supposed to play, a lot of times they get a spray of water in the face, or it's like they just want it sort of calm and mellow in the way you would want things happening indoors.
Much like elementary school. They just want you, lowest common denominator, just sit down and be the least amount of trouble you can possibly be.
Right. So when it comes to, the answer to this is yes, like a doggy daycare facility is great for puppies to socialize, but it's also like, who's the head of the class there? Who are the teachers? Who are the instructors? What does their day consist of? I always prefer, in this city at least, and Los Angeles is a little different. I had a friend in LA who he had a van and he would pick up like 20 dogs during the day. There was someone who was very good with dogs, and they would take them on these 3-hour hikes, which was awesome because dogs need to be doing things during the day. Just, standing around in a room and sometimes playing or laying there is just, that's not good enough in my opinion. But in the cities, I always prefer things like that. Or in New York City, a dog walker, because the amount of exercise they're getting and being with other dogs doing something where they're moving forward and there's stimulus other than just being inside of a room, and their behaviors and their discipline, there's a requirement for them to learn more because they're on leash and they're walking with a pack of dogs. I think that's always just such a better option, and that's what I go for. I always want Brutus, when he's here and I get busy, I have Aviva take him out, and she takes him on these hour-long walks, and he's with his friends, and they're doing something that requires structure. Like, I think structured activities are so much better than just sort of rambunctious, random play. And even if they are playing, when they're at, like I was saying, when they're at Ebony's and they're running around and they're on the half an acre, there's still structure to the thing because she's overseeing it and she's making sure that these dogs sort of, there's a volume knob on how excited they can get, and then their recalls are always being reinforced. So I always want discipline being reinforced. I want boundaries being reinforced. I want them having fun. I want them having exercise. But it's like there's a difference between kids that are playing a team sport and they're getting a lot of energy out, but there's boundaries and there's rules to that and there's structure to it, than kids just running around, screaming in a room together. So I look at it like that.
So what are some questions that she can ask of a doggy daycare to help ascertain whether or not that is the right environment? Because it's like you always say, make sure something is reputable. Sure.
Number one, I would get references from friends of yours, and I would see how those dogs are behaved, right? You're like, if you see someone who's got a really well-balanced dog, you'd be like, and they send them to a doggy daycare, it's like, which one do you send them to? Is there outdoor space? How much outdoor space do they have? If they don't have outdoor space, but they take dogs for walks, how long are the walks? Who are the people that work there? How many dogs do you take on at a time? Who the people that work there being like, how experienced are these people? And then take a look at it. A lot of those places also have cameras you can watch dogs, but if you see dogs, just like if they're mostly in a room for hours at a time, meaning like even if there's a playroom, it's like dogs should be outside.
And also making sure that
they should or have time outside.
Mixing the little dogs with the big dogs.
I don't think that matters so much because, for example, if you watched this show last week, we have little Mushu here and Brutus, who he could fit inside of Brutus's ear. Like, that doesn't matter.
It's not about a behavioral thing. It's that sometimes if a big dog is playing with a little dog and they step on them, they could really hurt them.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
It's really more for protecting the little dogs.
Right, but if there was someone there who knew what they were doing, it's sort of that really wouldn't happen. Like, for example, like Aviva or Ebony or all the people I know, it's like there's dogs there the size of Mushu, And there's also dogs there the size of Brutus, if
But
not
that's
bigger.
a one-on-one environment as opposed
That's
to
not
like
a one-on-one environment.
Okay. No, meaning that like that's a person. It's not like a facility. Like that's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying there are places where they're like that's what I'm saying. If there are educated people there, they understand the temperaments of the dogs individually. So for example, little Arthur, who's the same size as Mushu, has no interest in being with the little dogs. He wants to be with the big ones, and he is able to handle that, and he can take care of himself. And so it's like, you know,
That's 'cause Arthur's crazy.
the personalized touch and the personalization of the people invested in that place who really know your dogs, know their preferences. And so that's what I like. I don't like places that are sort of like factories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's the way I look at
that's a
it.
good way of putting it.
Because yeah, that's a perfect example. Like I know people who do this at their homes. I also know training facilities where they're like, they know those dogs individually. A lot of times the trainers of those specific dogs also run those places. And so they know the temperament of a little dog like Arthur, who's my Yorkie mix, who's like, he wants to rough it up with the big dogs. And it's like, you know, they all respect him. So that's what, to me, it's always like that personalized touch. And, you know,
he's a perfect example of when you always like to talk about train a little dog as if they were a big dog.
Yep.
He's a great example of that.
he's the example that I use, which is why he's in the majority of those videos. And he also has all the annoying stuff that a little dog would have if that wasn't channeled properly. Like there is not a dog that barks more when the doorbell rings. There is not a dog that's going to that is not going to there is not a dog who's going to nip at the heels of people getting up in his owner's house more than a dog.
Really?
Because he's so high drive and he's so confident, and he's, you know, he's just like he's a lot of dog and a little bit of body, which is why
I love
out of
that
all the
saying.
dogs I've ever had in training and daycare and in walking, he's top of my list of my favorites, and beyond not my type of dog.
No.
He's not
Which is why it just fascinates me, because I know you so well and I know your preferences so
Arthur-
well, that Arthur's like
My
in
favorite.
the inner circle.
in my top 3 of all times is, and we'll have him on the show, is my little Yorkie mix Arthur, who, you know, with my pit bulls, with my Danes, I mean, he's just up there because he's awesome. He's a lot of dog in a little
He
dog's
is a lot
body.
of dog. That's true. All right, let's
Next.
move on to Luis Garcia on Patreon.
Hi, Luis.
Hi, Luis. So, according to Luis, both of his dogs have always been raw fed, but now they have a kid and another baby on the way, so they can no longer afford to feed both of them fully raw. So he's starting to mix kibble with their food now. I've noticed a buildup on my older guy's teeth. I've started to give them raw bones to help, but my older one doesn't really have interest in them after he eats the meat off.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations on what to do?
Yeah, first of all, everything like from the chews to the water additives are just an adjunct to daily, weekly dental care that has to be done with a toothbrush, with gauze pads around your finger, and enzymatic dog toothpaste. Dogs need their teeth cleaned, and relying on chews to do it is not going to do the job, because just like us, you chew with different parts of your mouth. Plaque gets built up all over the place. And this is what this is one of my biggest gripes with dry dog food companies that say this specific thing. They're like, it's good for your dog's teeth because the hard kibble works as an abrasive. That's like you and me saying, like, you know what? I don't have to brush my teeth today because I ate a bunch of Doritos, and so the hardness of it knocked the plaque off from the other crap I
Don't
was
do
eating
that,
earlier.
kids.
That's ridiculous. Dogs
Right.
need their teeth brushed, and I also use a dental pick on my dog where I go around the top of the gum line, but I know how to do that. You don't really have to do that, but, you know, your vet can do that. But all the things that you do on top of that, like the fresh breath additives, the greenies chews, which I'm not a big fan of, but all those things are an additive. The other thing is like hard bones. Dogs' teeth are made out of the same thing that our teeth are made of. So I have sort of like a hardness limit of what I give my dogs, and I've learned this after years of experience, where Chiquita's teeth, as she got older, were like whittled down because I gave her so many marrow bones. And now I started just like cartilage is the hardest thing I'll give them now, because their teeth chip just like our teeth chip, and dogs' teeth are certainly harder to clean than people's teeth are. So when they have little cracks or fractures in those are going to get more bacteria in them. So the fact that dog's eating the meat off the marrow bone, it's sort of like, that's great. Like, that's where I would stop. And when they're chewing the marrow bone and it's really sort of grinding against those teeth, is it going to knock some of the plaque off? Yes, but that's not really the way we want to go about it, and I don't think there's a vet in the country that would disagree with that. So daily teeth brushing, and if it's not even daily, and if you just did it a few times a week, like, that's fine, but dogs will get used to doing that, and I have videos of how to teach them how to do it, where you just put a flavored toothpaste on the brush and let them lick it off, and then you start letting them chew the brush, and then you just do that for a few days, and eventually start slowly moving it around non-invasively, and you get them adjusted to that kind of thing. With smaller dogs, like I always say, like, having them chew just like sort of a string gauze pad that's on the end of your finger. Be careful that they don't like get your finger,
Right.
like make it so it like,
Especially
it
with
runs like
razor
a
teeth.
right. That's what you have to be smart about that, but that'll also do the trick there. In terms of like the feeding, I get that there's all different ways around feeding where you can accomplish what you're trying to do is just feed them really healthy.
Right.
Right? And every dog has different dietary needs, and your vet's going to know that, and you'll know that by paying attention to them. But there's ways to sort of cheat around that. Like, for example, like, there's days with Brutus where it's like, when I feed him eggs, it's just like I just throw a raw egg with the shell into the bowl and let him eat the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, that I just take an egg and drop it down. He just eats the egg, and the shell is great. Raw feeding, the difference between, I feed raw, but the difference between raw and cooked is like, how big of a difference is it? Not that much, because if the ingredients and the source proteins and vegetables and grains are healthy, it's still healthy. Like, how much, it's like the difference between a human being who's like, a vegetarian but eats cooked vegetables versus raw vegetables. It's like, is it, how much of an effect does this have? Like, you can listen to people argue this forever, but it's like, you're still a pretty healthy person, which is what we want to accomplish. There's cheaper ways to do this where, for Brutus, it's like he eats 2 pounds of Darwin's a day, right? Which is the raw food with the vegetables. But there's also times where it's like, if I'm running low on it, I add grains to it, I add rice to it, I'll add sweet potatoes, or I'll just go to the grocery store. It's like sweet potatoes as a source of fiber, or fruits and vegetables that we eat for us can be bought in bulk at supermarkets, and it's a lot cheaper, because a lot of times with dog foods, what you're paying for is you have to think, like, these things also have to be packaged, shipped, put on shelves. So there's so many things that you can add to dog's food to fill the bowl a little bit, but keep the quality the same thing. If someone threw a quarter of a high quality dry dog food that was a little cheaper than their raw food into their bowl, like, would this be the end of the world? No. And when I'm always preaching about, like, dry dog food, what I'm saying is, like, there's, like, when people look at just like a bag of medium to low quality dry dog food as the thing they feed their dog, I'm like, that's not great. That's what I'm always I'm not really preaching about it, but that's the standard I'm holding to. If you added a little bit here and there, is that the end of the world, or you're filling the bowl with a little bit of that while there's all this other healthy stuff in it? No. Did I eat like a bag of gummy bears last night? Yeah, but I'm still in great shape. So what's the difference? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I totally hear you. I have to cook raw for Suki.
You don't have to cook raw.
Well, no, cook raw, but I have to cook food for Suki.
Oh, got it.
So, but with this guy, I've been using Canine's Natural, but to your point, I fill it out with some sweet potato or some pumpkin and some rice.
Right.
And that also makes the bag sort of stretch.
That's it.
And I'm a huge fan of the frozen riced vegetables. Are really, especially the cruciferous ones, like riced broccoli, chopped kale, frozen chopped spinach, riced cauliflower. That is very inexpensive and a great way to fill out your dog's diet and give them that high fiber. But also that, those are vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables have carbs. So it's a different way of doing carbs. Not all carbs come from grains.
Right.
So that's another
Not
great
all carbs
way.
are starch.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was first starting this, I would canned mackerel. I would just get cans of mackerel, rinse off the brine so there's not a lot of salt, get frozen peas and carrots. And Chiquita for years was like, I would give her the whole
mac,
fish. It's
yeah.
got the bones in it, which is really good for them. You know, they're cooked, so it's soft. But like, I would give her like cans of mackerel. I remember I would just throw a bunch of raw eggs in. Just like us, the variety. Once they're adjusted to these things, the more variety in their diet, the healthier they're going to be. So I always like dogs to have, like, be able to eat a lot, tolerate a lot of things.
And as a little dog owner, because I have noticed that it can be easier for big dogs to like eat these things versus little dogs have a tendency sometimes to be a little more picky about their food. That there are ways around this where you just give them smaller portions. You either take out the bones, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan, but I think you're going to be good, Luis. Just do a few of these little tips and tricks, and we're good.
Yeah. The other thing you could do is you could go online and you could find like best fruits, vegetables, and grains for dogs, and then be like, oh, what's easy for me to sort of round this out?
What's on sale?
Yeah, what's easy to fill this bowl out with?
Yes,
like you were just saying. Like we're trying to get a little bit, like we're trying to save some cash by filling their bellies a little, by filling the bowl and the belly a little bit more.
Yeah,
I've been there.
As long as you're not using that like really cheap brand
like
dog food.
Yeah,
that
no
we're
Alpo.
not going to mention. Or we are, apparently.
I will.
Did. I'm also not a Purina person.
No.
Like all that stuff. Like, please, if you can avoid that, it's actually it is actually better and cheaper to just give them like whole foods that your families are eating and like whatever the kids don't eat or whatever, and give them that kind of thing as opposed to giving them that food.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next one came in to you, which was a DM on Instagram. Hi, Justin. My 11-year-old dog is showing signs of joint pain, slow to get up, stiffness, and the frequent yelp as if to say ouch when hopping off the couch.
Got it.
Or the stairs. Any suggestions for joint remedies? Is CBD good? And if so, what kind?
Good question. Let's first talk about, as I have an injured leg here, and I'm sitting with this pooch who's also got some sensitivity around his joints.
He does.
Preventing that jumping off the couch is important. I remember when Chiquita was getting older and she would jump off my bed or jump off the couch, there was that yelp or she would slip. The doggy steps did not work because she was too big. So I got Ani, what is it called? What's the crate when you get like a wooden crate that wine would come in? Not like what do they call it? Like a wooden, it was like
a wine crate.
Like a wine crate. Like something like that.
Wine crate.
Like a giant cigar. So it was almost like 2 feet by it was like 2 feet by wide by like 1.5 feet. And then I went and I got a bath mat and I put the bath mat on top of it.
Yep.
And then so it wouldn't slide, I got those rubber grippy things and I put them on the bottom. So I had the thing upside down and I taught her to go from the bed to that and vice versa. So it was less of a jump. Yes. So first of all, prevent the thing that's going to cause injury and yelps, right?
They also make ramps.
Listen to this.
He's getting a ramp.
They make ramps. They make these stickers that go on the bottom of dogs' paws.
Oh, I love this
that
one.
have grip on them. And they were all, because did they lick them? They may at first, but they kind of get used to them and don't.
That's a great
Depends
point.
on the dog. There's all different options. There's
they
different.
also have the socks with
They have socks with grip. They have things like I always want it. If you don't have carpet in the house, or like there's places like there's stairs where if your stairs don't have carpeting, like I always try to make it easier for them to grip and easier for them to not jump so high. So there's so many options for that. Okay, so there's like the let's prevent injurious movement. That's part one. Part two is there's exercises that strengthen dogs in that way. Like there's so much dog PT, which I love doing that stuff. There's like, and it's literally almost the same as people, where it goes from everything from swimming to the underwater treadmills. There's facilities that do it in New York City. It is so expensive, but I remember in LA, I went to this place. It was like $25 for an hour, and they would just swim your dog, or you could swim with them. Or if you have a pool, swimming is fantastic for them. There's all this PT for dogs with, the Bosu balls that we do. So you're teaching them stability. I would do things like put my hand under Chiquita's back leg and make her have to stabilize herself. So there's all these things that you could do to strengthen them and keep them comfortable in their older age.
They also have he does the bands, almost like the bands, like.
It's not unlike PT for human beings. And I think it's kind of fun and kind of bonding to do. Caring for dogs is always something I love. Like, I love brushing their teeth. I love bathing them. I love doing PT with them. I love all this stuff. So now let's get into supplements. Now, again, you have to discuss this with your vet. Like I said, this is my experience with this. I do know a lot, but anything that...
Joey's got some visuals for this.
Joey's got visuals for this?
Yeah.
Oh, what do we got?
So the first one that I was thinking, because I know you, and I was thinking the first one that we should talk about is Dassaqin.
Okay, Dassaqin. Okay, so now there's all these different. If you go on the screen, if you're watching right now, so this is Dassaqin. There's glucosamine and MSM is very, very good for dogs' joints. I found Dassaqin to be the best company for this. This is a chew that you would give them just like a treat. There's cheaper versions of it. There's all sorts of versions of the glucosamine, but Dassaqin is an awesome option, and all the vets that I've trusted the most have always recommended this the most. And when I've recommended this to clients, they've seen incredible results with this. So that's my internal chew of choice. Now, just like human beings, right? Dogs, when you give them something internally, a lot of that is going to get processed and peed out. So when dogs get older, or their mobility really starts to slow down, there is something called Adequan. Adequan was originally...
That's the next one that we have up.
We have Adequan. Adequan injections are, you would go to your vet to get these, and then you can do them at home. Of course, like, you have to make sure that a vet is educated. I've had vets that have not been educated on this, and then seen other vets, and they were like, how has this vet not prescribed this? Like, people know what they know, right? Mm-hmm. So Adequan for canines, it's an injectable that goes right in the scruff of their neck. You can do it yourself. They really don't feel it because you do it with such a tiny needle, and you know how the scruff of their necks is like, this tissue is very, very dense, and if you do it probably they won't really feel it. But this is phenomenal for giving them for an injectable of a glucosamine form of medication that just keeps the fluid and the soft tissue very stable in their bodies and keeps them very comfortable. So I've done this with all my dogs as they get older, and it's been great. I don't want to give too much like medical information here because I don't know cases where it wouldn't be appropriate because I've only seen people...
I would say any contraindications would potentially be, just check with your vet.
Yeah.
Is if you, like, my dog Suki has congestive heart failure, so, and she has advanced kidney disease.
Right, who knows?
She's 14 fall apart.
But
anyway, just check with your doctor the same way you would with your pharmacist
Absolutely.
On what any possible contraindications
Very
would be.
well said. And also, like I said, like the information that I know is that I like sort of I like a full-pronged approach where I give dogs a chewable, and then I also give them the Adequan. It depends where you're at. So now over to CBD. CBD is very helpful. Mm-hmm. It varies on dogs, and they're not going to be able to tell you how they're feeling. Like, it's
That's
great.
a good point.
It's great, right? So a lot of these times, it's sort of like the thing with dogs is like, the reason a lot of vet stuff is so expensive is because we can't be like, hey, where does this hurt? Can you point to it exactly?
Right.
They can't do that.
Right.
So we have to...
Is it a burning? Is it a stabbing?
Right.
Is it on the 0 to 10 pain scale? Where are you?
You know the happy face,
Yeah,
so like the face screaming when you have to circle the thing?
Yeah.
So it's like, so dogs can't do that. So we have to figure this out while the testing process. So people have to experiment with these things. Infinite CBD was a company that sponsored me a while ago. They have a pet version. Now, dog CBD and human CBD, as long as it's the CBD kind that doesn't have THC in it. I think there's a percentage that is so low that it doesn't really matter. But as long as it doesn't have THC in it, it's basically the same. You're just dosing a little bit differently. What I liked about Infinite CBD, and that company was friends of mine, and their owner was a huge dog lover. They use CBD isolate, which is basically the pure form of CBD that is then distilled in coconut oil, which is also good for dogs, which was distilled in coconut oil as opposed to a CBD extract, so that it was a little bit more effective.
Yes.
And they also had a dosing guide for dogs, but I think the combination of all these things is hugely helpful, and you have to experiment with your dog, information with your vet, and kind of, you have to figure your way around these things. But for me, I give dogs... Even as puppies, I give them some sort of joint support from the moment I lay my hands on them. Brutus is a big boy, and he is on... You have an audience question. Oh, great. Let me just... I give them joint support from the time that they're puppies because I'm just like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
100%.
Ani, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know the answer to this question.
Go.
But for those who don't know, why should you not have your dog around THC versus CBD? What is the difference? I have known nothing of this.
Because they can get high.
Some people are like, oh, I can smoke around my dog. You shouldn't do that.
I don't think you should.
No.
I don't think you should. I don't.
Anything
No.
with THC around your dog should not be a thing.
I don't think so.
You know, so-
You would know more
No,
than I
because
do. I'm
I
not-
mean the
I
truth.
know. I'm asking from the audience.
Right.
Oh.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's probably best to avoid
Getting your dog high.
marijuana based
Yes.
substances that have a, what do they call it, what's the word, hypo, what's the word, what it means, it shouldn't
CBD
have
and
it shouldn't have
THC are two
THC.
They
different
could
things for those who
hallucinate.
don't know.
Their brain chemistry is very different than ours. You know, the
Non-psychogenic effects.
Right.
That's the word I was looking for. Boom.
Human
There you go.
evolution, there are, you know, a lot of the medicines that we've gotten for things like cancer and, you know, even like the microdosing that's going on right now
Yeah.
has come from like the rainforest. And so human evolution, you know, we ate leaves and we, you know, kind of had a lot of these things, especially as our species evolved. They did not. There are not a lot of gray wolves out there getting high.
No.
So
There's not a lot of gray wolves out there.
I know,
Thanks,
it's
human
true.
beings.
I know. Thanks, people.
Thanks, people. Thanks, early settlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like your nutrition. Nutrition is hugely important. Like a lot of dog foods cause inflammation in dogs' joints. So it's like
Yes.
the cleaner they're eating, fish oils, things like all these things are hugely helpful. Not dissimilar to us. It's like, you know, the healthier stuff you put in them, the healthier they're going to be. But as they get older, it's like, you know, it was sad and sweet as Chiquita started to slow down, you know, and you know that
I
you
miss her.
get the special
No.
needs ones.
Well, one thing I will say is that what I learned with Mushu is because he had swimmers, but now he has luxating hips, luxating patella, like basically everything from like his mid rib cage down just moves. And so, if you get a puppy that has these issues, I've recently learned from the experts that I go to at North Star Vets. They are amazing. They're specialists in South Jersey. Is that you want them to get to be about a year old before you start putting them on supplements, because they want to be able to do an MRI, do an X-ray, kind of see where those things have kind of netted out, because they're constantly moving and growing. So you don't want to just start. Because my instinct was like, let's start dosing him now.
Loading him up.
Yeah, and let's load him up now. And they were like, no.
Yeah.
We can start loading him up when he gets to be about a year, but until he's about a year.
Yeah.
So for all of our listeners out there that have puppies or dogs under a year that may have these issues, you want to wait for them to get to be about a year old. The same way that you wouldn't give an infant all of these like Flintstone vitamins and, you know, DHA for focus and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
You're not giving that to an infant.
Yeah, I should have amended that. I say from the moment I get my hands on them, I adopt dogs usually over a year.
Oh, you always get over a year. Yeah. No, but I was just
yeah.
speaking as, because remember,
Yes.
I'm not used to new ones.
Yeah.
So now I've got the puppy.
Yeah, I usually get them over a year, which is
never
what
s-
I suggest to all my friends.
exactly.
Do we have anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, please, you know, check out our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TLOD, the language of dogs. Please
us questions.
Ask us questions. DM us on the language of dogs on Instagram.
Yeah.
Check out our YouTube page to see Mushu and to see Justin doing his thing. And
Now we have shelter shout outs and we have some
yeah,
dog
we've
fluencers.
got Funny for Fido.
Oh yeah, again, Funny for Fido is our Jesus, man, it is adorable in the studio right now. Look at this dude.
He's paint me like one of your girls, Jack.
We just got the cover for the episode. Yeah, Funny for Fido is our charity. It's at Funny for Fido, and it's funnyforfido.org. We take donations year round to give to rescue dogs, rescue animals. You know what? I've never even mentioned this. Not only do I when the whole thing was happening in Australia with the
Yes,
fires. I
we
sent
did
money
we
over there. I
sent
sent
a
money
lot
for
of
the
money.
kangaroos.
We sent a lot of
and
money
the
for the
koalas.
kangaroos
I
and the
sent-
koalas. And
So you
yes.
could donate to us year round. We are planning that tour right now, which is probably coming to a city near you, but I'm not going to give out too much away because we don't even know. We're planning that right now.
It's a lot of work.
So without further
But
ado,
it's good work. So our shelter dog shout out for this week is Muddy Paws Rescue. That is MUTT Paws, not MUDD Paws.
I know them.
And they are based out of Palm Beach County because I am a native Floridian, and we get a lot of rescues in Florida, as you know. And they are dedicated to saving, rehabilitating, and providing medical treatment for animals specifically on death row in the surrounding areas. They believe in and educate the community on the importance of spaying and neutering and reintroducing them and making sure to sort of quell the overpopulation that is happening with shelter animals. They are a foster-based rescue. So
our favorite.
exactly. So that means that they do not have a facility per se, and they constantly need the support of their community to help with their mission to save as many animals as possible. So they've got some great dogs here. We've got Zion. So that is Zion
Ooh.
before.
Okay, so wait, just so listeners, so you can see this is going to be like a silverish blue brindle pit. This
Yep.
is what Sweepy look like.
Yes.
But this is a mange. That looks like a mange covered
and
coat
also,
where it's very spot.
emaciation.
Yeah, emaciated dog, and you could see that coat is very
And look at him now.
very cute.
Look
So-
at that pretty boy.
Yeah, you could see. This is what's interesting is when people see these dogs that are mangy, and mangy is just it's a bug that eats away at the skin and the
Mm-hmm.
hair. That always grows back, and it's amazing to see the before and after. Sometimes you see those dogs that look like those hairless cats.
Yes.
Because they have mange.
Yep.
And I'm like, and you could sort of see what's going to come through, but the difference is like
Mm-hmm.
if you took like a old rusted out 80s car and then you gave it to exhibits and he pimped your ride out.
Yeah.
And then like the paint job was like spectacular afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So there we
Yep.
go. I'll let
so we
you-
got
I'll-
another one that's Cookie. I love Cookie. Cookie's adorable.
Let's see.
So Cookie, that's Cookie. She was
It's like a pit lab mix.
Yeah, she's a lab. She's definitely a
Emaciated,
lab mix.
ribs.
Emaciated. Look at her front snout.
Yeah.
like just how red and angry.
Yeah.
and that's probably from trying to nose for food.
Right.
And then look at her. Oh my goodness,
That's unbelievable.
Look at that.
Wait, is that the same dog?
That is the same dog.
Really?
That is
Oh,
the
it's a different
same
angle, so you didn't see
Yep.
the patch on the side. Yeah, the before and
Right.
afters are great on these things.
Oh, you got to see Khaleesi.
Okay.
Her name is Khaleesi.
Oh, my
Is
favorite.
right up your alley.
Oh,
So that
dude.
was
Okay.
Khaleesi.
This is a hard one to look at.
Yes,
This
it's a
dog.
female.
This is as emaciated as I've ever seen a
Seen.
dog. I could see every bone in this dog's
is very
body. This is
happens a
upsetting.
lot in the South because people just abandon dogs or they tie them up outside and they don't feed them.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
this
this dog-
happens. In rescue, we get a lot from Texas, a lot from the Carolinas, a lot from Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
Let's-
I don't know what's going on down there,
So-
but this is what happens all the time. Look at her from the front.
Okay.
And now,
Very upsetting. Let's see
right.
now.
So now look at Khaleesi, the queen of dragons.
Yeah, there you go.
Look
okay.
at
all
that
the weight back on,
gorgeous girl.
muscle chest, full body, like not
Look at the blue in her
Beautiful.
face. And the green
Unrecognizable.
eyes.
Yeah, unrecognizable from
Gorgeous.
beginning from the first pictures to the last picture. So I always implore
Yes.
people when they see dogs like that, look there she is with her family.
Yep.
That's awesome. Another
Yes.
a t-shirt. Oh, they have
Mary Pitmas.
a Mary Pitmas t-shirt with both of their rescue dogs. These are the kind of
Yes.
people I love. We'll have to hit
Yep.
find out who these people are and hit them up and let them know they're on this episode because that
Yes.
got to give them some dap. So there you go. That's awesome. I love.
Happy. So
I'm all
and
about the
then
rescue.
our dog fluencer of the week.
Let's see it.
Is the one that you love. It's our best boy Brody.
Let's
so Brody was born in a rescue shelter.
Oh, this is the one with the face.
To a 10-month-old stray, and the mom bit his head when he was just 13 days old and crushed his skull, and he left him partially blind in one eye and his jaw almost completely fused shut. He was adopted and then returned, and then his now parents saw a video of him and just couldn't help themselves, and he was adopted on the spot. And you can follow him at Best Boy Brody, Brodie, on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay, so I have to say,
You are obsessed with this guy.
Okay, so here's the thing: like this dog is so fugly because his face looks like
Hell no! You just did
Stop it! They know. Please stop. They know the reason that this thing is so cute is because he's so. His face looks like it's twisted in half. He looks like he's in a bendy mirror, but he's like this awesome, happy dog.
I don't know. I feel like my face looks like that on Monday morning.
This dog,
every Monday morning.
This is what a dog would look like if you were on acid. But the reason that this dog is so awesome is because he's got this happy, wonderful, full life, and they're like, hey. This animal doesn't know what he looks like. He doesn't care. He's happy as can be, and like it's such this cool like not really a special needs dog because he's not. He's just like his face is all twisted up, and it makes him so damn cute.
If your jaw is almost fused shut, you got to eat a very specific way.
I get it, but why?
Yeah.
But the
He's
reason,
beautiful.
but the reason I love this dog is because he's so like mangled up, and these people are like, we don't care, and the dog doesn't care, and he's awesome. So I always follow this dog's page.
Yeah,
you know, it's not even
he's
like.
Just pure,
I mean, Ani's losing her mind over here. She's laughing her ass off.
Pure uncut joy. Best boy Brody.
He's awesome. I followed that account. I love that account. I always comment on their stuff, but it's like they know. That's what's so cool about him. That's what's so cool. You know what he looks like? You remember in the Goonies?
He looks like Sloth. He looks like Sloth.
Yeah, the dog's an angel, and his face is like that, which is what's so cute about him. Like, that's what's so awesome about this dog. It's like, you're just like, that's what's so awesome about him. That's why I follow this page. That's why I love them. And it's like they do a lot.
You guys.
They do a lot for rescue. Like I think that dog, and he's like that, and that dog lives like that dog's life is awesome. He lives a great life. So I love that one. All right, everybody. So that is it for this week. Again, it's at The Language of Dogs on all social media platforms. Patreon is patreon.com/TLOD. YouTube page, The Language of Dogs. You can listen to this anywhere you listen to podcasts. You could watch us on YouTube. Until next week, happy dog training, everybody.